And this was right after when Valis came out. In mid-20s, had cancer, wore a wig because she'd lost her hair in chemo, and he referred to her as the greatest of my titanic errors.
He moved out to take care of Doris Sauter, a girl who had terminal cancer in 1980 and is probably still alive today. They sent her home because there was nothing more they could do for her, and they told her she would be dead in 6 months, but last I heard she was still alive.
Phil's apartment mine was that one straight up, and his was the one with the door facing this way. Phil and I were friends when I lived here and when I moved out. So I would usually go over to his apartment and cook dinner for him and sit and watch TV with him until about 11 o'clock or so, and then I would just walk over here and come home. When you look at his history, you know, he always was involved with women who needed rescuing, and I think I fit into that, you know, because I was young, I was broke, I was sick. I was struggling to get through school, and he liked being needed. So when you didn't need him anymore, it was like he had no reason to live. He needed a cause.
Phil's whole life has been a tragedy of women. He was kind of the damsel in distress Sir Galahad. He would always pick frail, dying, with cancer, troubled, schizophrenic women, and love them and want to fix them.
He was very good at finding young ladies, I think, who needed rescue, but he wasn't as good at providing the rescue. Because really, he often needed rescuing himself.
He had an unfortunate taste in women for women with mental problems, you know, and he would admit this. One time, when he lived in Santa Ana, he had to take group therapy in Fullerton, and I'd have to sit in the waiting room while he'd be in the room back there with these, you know, losers. And a woman came in, a young woman came in. And as soon as I saw her, I thought, oh my God, that's the most psychotic looking woman I've ever seen in my life. You know, she had like really thin, real long, dark, you know, witchy hair. And she had this big Bible clutched to her breast, and her eyes were just, you know, completely psychotic. And all of a sudden I realized Phil is sitting next to me. He's getting up out of his chair. He's gonna go get up and go talk to her. And I grabbed his arm and said, for God's sake, Phil, please, please, please don't go talk to that woman. Don't. I had dragging him back in his chair. Don't go talk to her. She's obviously nuts. And he was just, wow, she's the most exciting thing I've seen. And yeah. So yeah, he did unfortunately have a tendency to get involved with less than stable personalities.
The sort of generic Phil Dick young lady would be 18 years old, not tall, and of course with long dark hair. The long dark hair seems to have been a kind of totem, emblem, recognition almost. And I don't think it's far-fetched to see that as an extension of his lifelong awareness of the fact that his twin sister died shortly after their birth.
He thought that Jane would have had dark hair. Phil was a blonde, and Jane had died at 1 or 2 months, but his mother told him that she had dark hair. So he was looking for a dark-haired girl to replace his lost twin.
In other words, it's a common theme in my writing that a dark-haired girl shows up at the door of the protagonist and tells him that his world is delusional, that there's something false about it. Well, this did finally happen to me. I even knew that her hair would be black. I had an actual complete sense of what she would look like and what she would say. She did appear, she was a total stranger, and she did inform me of this fact, that some of my fictional works were in a literal sense true.
My name is Joan Simpson, and I met Philip K. Dick through an introduction by my ex-boyfriend. It developed into a friendship. It was never a highly sexual relationship, never. But he was so smart, and he had a good sense of humor. And he was entertaining, and I loved listening to him talk. And we did a lot. We talked. We walked. We had quite fun. And then he got a little too paranoid, but that comes later down the line. Philip K. Dick was, and I believe still is, very, very popular with the French. So they invited him to a huge honorarium there on science fiction convention in METZ. Paid for the ticket for himself and myself, and gave his speech, his METZ speech, which he worked on for a long, long time. And he was very happy with the speech. And the speech was really quite horrible.
I wrote out these dreams in novel after novel, story after story. To name two in which this prior ugly present obtained most clearly, I cite The Man in the High Castle and my 1974 novel about the U.S. as a police state, called Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. I'm going to be very candid with you. I wrote both novels based on fragmentary residual memories of such a horrid slave state world. People claim to remember past lives. I claim to remember a different, very different present life. I know of no one who has ever made this claim before, but I rather suspect that my experience is not unique. What perhaps is unique is the fact that I am willing to talk about it.
And people were shocked. And at the same time, they were pretty kind. They really were. I think it was so awful that people saw that something was really wrong.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
And I was sitting there just going, oh, I wish I wasn't sitting here. I wish I didn't have to be here. And at the same time, I felt so terribly, terribly sad. Really, really sad. Because it was apparent that something really, really spectacular, something really great, had probably gone missing and wasn't there anymore.
To my way of looking at things at my present age, the stuff when he started to get off on the Messiah from, outer space, I found the entertainment value of the work suffered. The fact that he had a bone to pick, I think, hurt the literary quality of it.
That creativity, that big mind, that depth, that exciting brain dynamic that he used to have in writing these novels, and they were deep, they were new, they were a bauble of new thought. They were stretching the boundaries, and that was lost. Couldn't do that anymore.
In Philip K. Dick's later years, he calls upon his mystical